Ladies and gentlemen, I urge you today to open your ears and absorb the cautionary tales that I am about to give you today. What I intend to do in this video is feed you 3 different stories from my own experiences where I have failed a manifestation and explain why they failed and what I should have done instead. And the aim is to help you avoid these mistakes and instead create success. Because a wise man, or in this case woman as well, learns from their mistakes, but a wiser man or woman learns from somebody else's. Now this reigns very true in my experience, so I want to provide you some mistakes so that you can learn. But before we jump into that, if you need any one-to-one help, whether that's with me directly, self-study worksheets, exclusive content, me affirming for you, calls me, anything like that, or a full course on how to manifest your person, that is all down below in the comment section and the description. I urge you to check it out once this video is done. If you could drop me a like and a comment if you end up enjoying this video, and of course subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, because it really helps the channel grow and it helps push it out on the algorithm. But thank you so much for your time. Now into this video. Now I'm going to start with my experiences with Katie because, you know, I manifested her back and that's something that resonates with many of you. And then I'll go on to some others afterwards. And I will try to keep these stories, you know, sweet and simple, so you're not like, carrying on. I knew about manifestation many years before Katie and I even met. And having had some successes with manifestation prior, it all still fell apart. Now, why is that? Well, the reason why, and this is exactly why I approach my content in the way in which I do, but the reason why it fell apart is because even though I knew up here, I can just affirm, I can just visualize, I can just do this, that, and the third, my ability to do that consistently without having such negative stories overrunning it was very low because of my low self-concept, which is why I always advocate self-concept. Because of my lack of awareness and ability to self-regulate when things went wrong, which is why I always urge breathwork, meditation, and so on. So while I could, and at times did, go with the barreling affirmations approach, the natural state that I was in without engaging consciousness was in the toilet. And therefore, so did the relationship go. So what I should have done instead, and I suppose this is what I ended up doing, which is what manifested her, is I should have had more conscious awareness when I was giving into triggers, when I was giving into thoughts and feelings and impulses, and practiced more self-regulation, more breath work, meditated more, such things like that. Listened to music that wasn't sad, which put me in a bad mood. And by doing this, I would have kept the negative, you know, as low as I could have done, which means with the affirming that I was doing on the side to try and repair our relationship before it broke, it would have been more successful. But of course, I didn't go about it that way, and therefore we separated. But, and this is what Tuesday's video was all about, the no contact was very beneficial because it allowed me the space to actually work through myself without more and more negative experiences piling on, which is why I think no contact is actually a great place to be. So the lesson here is, if you can keep yourself regulated, not reacting, or at least not, you know, reacting really bad, practicing breath work, practicing meditation, exercise, good music, things that keep you on a level, the manifestation work you are doing will be more successful. And on the flip side of that, keeping an awareness of yourself and do that manifestation work. Focus on the end result and create a direction for your mind to go. Now that's story 1. Story 2 was when I very first got into manifestation and I was trying to manifest that specific partner back. As you can see, there's a lot of me being left behind. I was manifesting in steps because I was new to the process, and like many people who are new to the process, you think, oh, that text will lead me on to the next thing. without a clear understanding of how the subconscious mind actually works. Now, the way that I like to view the subconscious mind, and that hasn't led me astray so far, is to see the subconscious mind like a child. If I was to tell a child, pick up that piece of rubbish, a child will do it, likely. As adults, you and I would assume that that means and put it in the bin. But that child will hold it for 5 minutes before it drops it in some random corner because it got distracted. The subconscious mind is the same thing. If you're manifesting in steps, yeah, you'll get that step. But the subconscious mind hasn't been given the direction for the next step and the next step and the next step. Which means unless you consciously do the next steps, it may not go anywhere. In fact, it's likely not to go anywhere further than that manifestation. And that is exactly what happened to me. I was manifesting texts from my specific person at the time. And, I was learning the process, I was practicing things, I was doing my intention method that I've got a short coming up about, and so on. Eventually, I woke up after probably about a month and a half, maybe 2 months, of having not heard anything, and there was a text. Now, the text was asking to meet in person to exchange a couple of valuable things. Now, the reason why I'm using this as a cautionary tale is because I was on basically the other side of the country, and therefore I had no way, because I didn't drive at the time, no way to get back, and this was pretty much a today or nothing kind of thing. And while you may be hearing this and thinking, oh well, a text to get stuff back, how could that be a good thing? We need to remember my manifestation was to get a text, and the subconscious mind takes the path of least resistance based on that. Now, the path of least resistance would have been getting the stuff back, but the fact that it was in person was always very strange to me, because previously I gave her stuff back by taking it to her house and leaving it there, and then her parents opened the door and accepted it all and yada yada yada. So there was no previous direct interaction. Even upon her moving out, she took all of her stuff while I was at work. If it hadn't have been so bloody cold at the time, I would have not come home when I did, and therefore actually bumped into her on her way leaving. So there was no interaction at all, and all of a sudden there was this in person. And it kind of felt like a little bit of a kick in the teeth from my subconscious mind to say, nearly, if you weren't on the other side of the country, it would have worked. I know that's not how the subconscious mind works, but, I thought it was quite amusing to tell. But because my story was text, I got the text, but it couldn't go anywhere because consciousness hadn't expanded to the position of getting the end result. Therefore, I urge you in your journey, if you will do texts, which I don't advise, but if you do, ensure for the love of the universe that you go the next step and then the next step and you keep going. But in my honest recommendation, just go to the end result. Because that way you'll manifest your person like I did with Katie by going to the end result, and you don't get these really frustrating and icky things in the middle where it's like, here's your text, but can't do anything about it. So that's my advice on that. Third and final cautionary tale is significant time, maybe another 3 or 4 weeks after this event that I've just referenced, I'd let go of that previous person. To me at the time, that was significant. Can't meet, I give up with that. So I started, just opening my options up to other people and so on. And there was another person that I'd become a little bit infatuated with. Very bad for me, and that's because I was in such a terrible place. It was, not a good instance. If I could go back and tell past me to not doing it, I'd do it. I definitely would. But there was this person that I was infatuated with, and I put a lot of dependency on things working out, on getting the text, on her becoming available to me, on all of these things. Now, I want to tell you this story because it kind of touches on the detachment element, which I think is very important, but it also touches on, the kind of why people get hot and cold. I was doing good manifestation work. I was setting intentions. I was getting a lot better. I was getting more consistent. hadn't learnt my lesson and not gone to the and started to go to the end result, but we'll ignore that. I was getting the occasional text. I was getting the occasional meetup. I was getting things happening. And then I put loads of pressure on it to continue, and it stopped. This I'm telling you because this is something that I think many of us deal with in this process, is when movement starts happening, or when we're trying to get movement to happen, we become so dependent on the success that we kind of lose ourselves in it. And then when we get the movement, it's like, cool, now I've got to double down, I've got to do it, I've got to do it. But that very pressure is what makes it withdraw. We've all had this. Any one of us that have had movement, I'm sure at some point in time, has had something happen and it just go radio silent. This is why. You're putting too much pressure on it. Pressure typically stems from dependency. Dependency typically stems from lack. Lack, of course, creates more lack because the consciousness is that of I don't have it. So when I was putting so much pressure on, like, oh, I need to get this intention to work. Oh, why didn't it work within the time that I wanted it to? And things like that. I was just feeding my subconscious mind. She ain't interested. I'm doing all of this stuff and it's just not happening, not happening, not happening. Doesn't happen. So I urge you, if you're manifesting a bit of movement, the end result, and you haven't had anything yet, or if you're manifesting and you've had some movement and you want to continue the momentum, please detach from the outcome. Now, detaching doesn't mean stop desiring. Detachment just means do not need it. Desire it because desire fuels work. Do not need it because need fuels lack. And it literally is. When I was manifesting Katie, and I know this isn't that story, but when I was manifesting Katie, I literally, the day before, told myself, you know what? If I get her, great. If I don't, that's okay too. And this release in need, this release in resistance, this release in dependency allowed her to flow in literally the day after. Every time with this person that I just referenced that they finally gave some reciprocation was when I put my attention on something else, started working out, started getting up at 6 a.m. to do nunchuck training and stuff in the garden. I had a lot of time on my hands at that time because it was during the height of COVID and things like that. I'd started putting my energy and focus and purpose into something else focused on me. And then she'd come in and then I'd get even more intense and then she'd back away. And then I'd be like, what the fuck? You know, and it was just this perpetuated cycle of I push, she pulls away. I go, I can't do this. I pull away, she pushes. Back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. So I hope that that kind of gives you the understanding of why it's important to detach. Because when you stay pulled back, and I don't mean pulled back in the sense of like, oh, I hate you, never speak to me again, because, you know, that's not a good place to come from. But when you're pulled back to the degree of, I desire you, you're attractive, you're interesting, I do, you know, love you, whatever it is that you feel towards this person, but I'm going to focus on me, and when I'm not focused on me, then I'll feed some positive stories about you to my subconscious mind. That's when you sit back like the king or queen of your reality, and that's when they start approaching. So I really urge you to take on these lessons, keep yourself regulated, like I referenced with my Katie experience, and try to make it so your state is more positively aligned towards the desired outcome, even when things are bad. You don't need to react to stuff. Believe it or not, your reactions are a choice. I know it may sound crazy for me to say that, but your reactions past the first couple of seconds from there on become a choice. My ring light is going absolutely ballistic right now. I'm having a little personal disco. With the second story, go to the end. Just go to the end. Just do yourself the favor. Overcome the ego that wants that text, that wants that apology, that wants all that, and go to the end. Assuming you want the end. You know, if you just want a text with an apology and that's that, then, you know, that's a different story. But if you want the end, just go to the end. And for the love of the universe, just detach. Desire it, but don't need it. I really hope you've enjoyed this video. I hope you are going to learn from my failures so you can avoid making them yourself. If you have any sympathy for me, my poor little heart, put it down below. I'm checking. But if you do have anything you want to comment, any questions, any feedback, anything at all, by all means put it down below. Like the video if you haven't already. It really helps the algorithm out, and it gives me a little dopamine spike when the videos do well. So feed my dopamine, because I don't really do a lot that gives me dopamine. I read and exercise. But again, I joke. I kid. And of course, if you do need any help from me on a one-to-one basis, or any of the things that I have to offer, down below in the comment section and the description are the links to my website, where you can find everything I have to offer. You don't have to sign up for anything, but I do urge you to at least check it out, because there may be something there that could change your life, and you don't want to potentially miss out on that. But thank you so much for being here. I really hope you've enjoyed this video. I am going to cut down to 2 videos per week. Reason being, I want to focus more on making the videos better, starting from my next set of videos. And I'm doing a lot of background work on the courses, making it a little bit more difficult between the children and, you know, working video calls, all that kind of stuff, to do 3 videos and all that. But at this present moment in time, there is 3 courses on the go. Yeah, 3 courses on the go and plenty more planned. So I'm doing a lot of behind the scenes work. But anyway, thank you very much for being here. I really hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, drop me a like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll catch you lovely people in the next one. Bye-bye.